case started declining, even though till 12th century it was unchallenged economic superpower. 12th to 16th century, it slowly started showing signs of vulnerability and decline. Even then, it was substantial. That's because whatever wealth was created, very little went out of India. But from 18th century, significant amount of wealth that was created here was taken out to Britain, and that's it. So the decline started with the initial suppression by the Arabic knowledge system, particularly the Delhi Sultanas. But they didn't do a full job because they lacked total control over both geography and polity. It was still vibrant in many local geographies that held on to much of Indian knowledge system. You will see that now. If you go to any, most North Indian marriages happen late in the night. That is because of the suppression. If you had it in the morning, either it was disrupted or probably they would even abduct the bride and take the wealth away. So they quietly did it in night. That practice still continues. Even now in Delhi, 90% of the weddings happen in late night. Okay. One of the reasons IKS is significantly visible in South India is because South India experienced less Arabic suppression and we had so many local kingdoms, okay? Particularly Mysore, where I live now. We didn't have direct British rule, even though Mysore was a vassal state. The real damage came from the British colonial rule from 1825, because I don't know how many of you have seen this document. The original document of Lord Macaulay defending his policies in India in the British Parliament on 2nd February 1835. See what he says? I have traveled across the length and breadth of India. I have not seen one person who is a beggar, one who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system with the British model. This is the Macaulay's plan. Macaulay's plan was not to give us education, but to destroy our culture. And he partly succeeded. Okay. And you see, further, I have no knowledge of either Sanskrit or Arabic, but he says English is superior to Sanskrit and Arabic. Okay. This is the attitude with which they were ruling. And you see that you look at this Royal Simla Club, no dogs are Indians. This is the plaque on the Simla Club. They treated us worse than dogs, and we have learnt it. Our principals treat us very badly. We as HODs treat our colleagues badly, and all of us treat our students badly. We treat the students' parents even more badly. We have inherited all this nonsense from them because you probably are not aware of even this. You see here, why people come and stand before you? Why you as a colleague go and stand before the principal? You should go just first sit down and then talk to him, because this is the rule. Kursi Nashin. This is a certificate given to Indians when they attended British office, and they could, with this certificate, they could sit before the British officer. Otherwise, you had to stand. Even if the chairs are there, you have to stand. We have all this rotten culture inherited. We continue. That is why everybody wants to be the HOD and principal and vice chancellor. Nobody wants to be a faculty, because I can do this to others. If he had this certificate, he was permitted to sit on a chair. They treated us worse than dogs. Same culture happens. Suppose you go to a district collector's office. Why should you stand? That idiot is living there because of your taxpayers' money. In fact, he should stand up, not you. As a common citizen, you are supreme. This is what they made. So now we'll come to saying what all good was with us and what is the advantage. Let's go billions of years back. Modern science, particularly Western knowledge system, has the capacity to both look forward and backward. It can look on a micro scale with a microscope, on a cosmic scale through a telescope. It can look outside the body through a stethoscope, inside the body through a CT scanner. It has sent people inside the earth, under the sea, and even to moon. They have also caused irreparable damage, caused today's climate issue, and have been responsible for more damage than World War II. Today there is more wealth, but also more inequality. It also created COVID-19 virus. This virus was created in China, funded by America. Be very clear. Now you have unrefutable proof that it was created in Wuhan lab, funded by Americans. So everybody says Big Bang created the universe. We are here 15 billion years now. So the question is, what after Big Bang? Big Bang means expansion. Expand. There is one model which is cyclic model, which says it will expand till some order and then start shrinking. Again, it will become what is called the big crunch. Again, another Big Bang. This cyclic nature of Big Bang, expansion, going to big crunch, cyclic nature of universe is today about the most acceptable model. There are other models which are contending, which are forever expanding, that kind of thing. But what's interesting is, see here, most Western scientists like Carl Sagan, Niels Bohr, everybody says that Indian or Hindu knowledge system is the only system that has correctly identified cyclic nature. Big Bang followed by Big Crunch. So almost 1000 years before Western knowledge system identified cyclic nature and time scale, Indian knowledge system had already identified. But our problem is we had not measured it scientifically in modern terms, objectively in terms of units and dimensions, or with instruments like Large Hadron Collider, LIGO Observatory, James Webb Telescope, all this. Westerners have done that. Westerners are far more objective in this. The second excellence is definitely of any culture, architecture is the symbol of excellence because that is what remains now. For example, this is 1200 BC, the famous temple at Abu Simbel. Okay. Today it looks like that all the color has faded away. This is in Egyptian civilization. This is Great Wall of China. This is the Roman aqueduct. This is the Greek remains. These two people may not know, but those who know is fine. This is what is in Central America, the Mexico, Guatemala, and other places, the Aztecs. This is in a very high altitude Andes mountain, a famous place called Machu Picchu. This is the Inca civilization. So all of them have built impressive structures which symbolizes their excellence in their knowledge system. But this is interesting. This is one of the earliest views of how a British soldier who lost his way accidentally saw, which was all even more covered with undergrowth. When it was cleared, it looked like this. This is the Ajanta caves. Inside the Ajanta caves, you will see blue color painting all done. Okay. Please remember, this painting were oil painting. And oil painting was done in India 1000 years before Leonardo does it in Europe. Okay. Impressive. Even more impressive. Probably one of the greatest monuments in history of time Unfortunately, it is not in wonders of the world, 7 wonders. Ideally, it should be given wonder number 0 because it is wonder of wonders, which is the Kailasnath temple in Ellora, which is interesting because this is one of the greatest architecture done reverse. There is no foundation. A hillock was carved out from top. So the first part was Gopura, the last was a false foundation because nobody had to dig. This is the foundation. And very impressive foundation. Symbolically, elephants holding the weight. And the size is impressive. See, these are real life humans. Compare that. I know people who have visited all the other 7 wonders. They say this is wonder of all those wonders. So this is how IKS has not been valued. Okay. Even more interesting. Not only that impressive, look at this carved pillar. I don't think you can find any carving like this anywhere in the world. This is Boga Nandishwara temple, very close to Bangalore airport, Nandi Hills. Everybody knows Brihadeshwara temple. Oh, magnificent in Tanjavur. But we have not only worked delicate artistic carving, monoliths, unbelievable counterintuitive design, and we also have something very interesting, which I think most public miss out. Between Tiruvananthapuram and Kanyakumari, on the road, there is a small place called Padmanabhapura. I wish people visit it because there you have a wooden palace made out of wood, which is the world's second largest wooden palace. The world's first largest wooden palace is in Tokyo, where the Emperor of Japan even now lives. But this is the world's second largest wooden palace. So we have done with all kinds of material, and even more interesting, the only place in the world where stones make music. This is in Hampi. It's a culmination of the finest pieces of art. In terms of architecture, it's very difficult to, they are impressive. Egyptian pyramids and others, they have no artistic superiority, but they're huge, monolithic, impressive structures. But this is delicate, symbolic, cultured. I mean, the one who made the Egypt must have had a lot of labor and slaves. Same is with Tanjavur temple. But you also know all the major things were done by artists. They were not done by slaves. Okay. The third part is mathematics, which is interesting because the whole world uses this, which is the Hindu numeral 0, which is the decimal system. Till this was introduced to the Europeans were doing Roman calculation, Roman numerals. And people who know mathematics know how difficult it is to multiply and divide large numbers. Even worse if you have fractions. Definitely not with negative numbers. Forget about complex numbers. All this happened because Europeans, through the Arabs, learned the Hindu numerals. It is called Arabic numeral, but it is a copy of the Hindu numeral because Arab traders took it. Okay? It went to Italy where Renaissance happened. One of the reasons Renaissance happened is because they started working with decimal system. So this is a very early manuscript called Bakshali manuscript. The copy of this is there in Oxford or Cambridge University Museum. It is about a problem involving cattle trading. Like you have after every Shankranti, you have cattle trading in India. Earlier, there was no money. So they would trade. For example, 1 buffalo and 1 sheep would be given to one in exchange for 1 cow. Sometimes 1 cow and 1 buffalo and 1 sheep would be given in exchange for a horse. Horse was very valued. Okay. In Pushkar, which happens even now, cattle trade, of course, they deal it with money now. Camel also would be traded. So this is typically how horse and camel were being traded. There is a problem about that. And this is how they solved the problem. Okay. They used algebra to solve. Even more interesting, as early as 200 BC, the mathematician Pingala had already done what is today binary number system. He did not say 1 and 0, but he said a symbol and its absence. Absence and symbol. Today it can be mapped to 1 and 0, which is a binary system. Again in 3rd and 2nd century BC, he had done many interesting things, including what is now known as Fibonacci series, Pascal triangle, all that has come. Okay. 1900 years later, Leibniz actually gives the binary notation, which eventually is used in Boolean algebra and all that. Okay. What is more interesting is a very serious mathematician, approximately 1700 years back, who was the first to use 0 as a number. He also gave rules to compute with 0. He used negative numbers and 0 for computing. The modern rule that two negative numbers multiplied together equals a positive number first appears with him. He had given the formula for geometric series, etc., etc. Okay. Even more interesting is Bhaskaracharya, who wrote 4 books, one on arithmetic, one on algebra, one on celestial mechanics, one on conic sections. He also developed trigonometry of compound numbers, which compound angles, which you now do as sine of A plus B, sine of A minus B. Please remember one thing. 95% of all the trigonometry in the world which is used today was developed in India. Only 5% was developed outside afterwards using this. Okay. Very interesting happened in just about a month and a half back. On 20th June 2025, there was an article in many newspapers, including Hindu and Hindustan Times, all that, where this place again is Mysore, the archaeological epigraphic unit in Mysore deciphered a set of copper plates which was found in the Sri Shailam temple, and one of the copper plates depict for the year 1456 AD or current era. It clearly says Dhumaketu, etc., which now tallies exactly with the appearance of Halley's comet. Okay, Halley calls it Halley's comet after 250 years or 300 years. They had done this, and this is during Vijayanagar Empire, where the Maharaja gave this priest a village and asked him to do all the yagnas to negate the influence of comet. Comet, Dhumaketu means bad omen. Right or wrong is different. They have identified it correctly and they have taken some measures. So this is well documented here. And Halley calls it Halley's comet later. This is how many things have happened. I'll come to that. For example, the Hindu numerals, this was early numeral. This is pre-Ashoka period. And the first version of Devanagari, which is found in Gwalior, which has a 0. This is the final Arabic numeral, Hindu-Arabic numeral, which went to Europe. This is the modern version, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. The manuscript I have below here is the Arabic numerals written in Latin so that the decimal system can be understood by Europeans. This is the work done by Fibonacci. I'll come to Fibonacci a little later. Not just numerals, even calculus was invented in India. All the idea of Taylor series, all that which Newton uses to generate his idea of differentiation was actually done near Kerala, in Kerala, very close to Guruvayur. Okay. So I'll come to that later. So this is really what it is. course, everybody knows Ramanujan, one of the greatest mathematician with totally IKS thinking, who had no formal Western knowledge system training, and very impressive things he did. This is his last notebook, meaning one notebook with numerous problems and solutions, because he did not have money to buy white sheets to solve them. He solved using slate and sometimes stick and sand on the ground. Whenever he got the solution, he wrote the solution by the side. So this notebook contains about few hundred problems and solutions, which is great research now for American. This is a center called, mathematics department of University of Chicago. There's a very famous professor called Bruce Brent, who and his team of research scholars for last 40 years are not doing anything but working only on Ramanujan's notebook. Today, taking this small book here of 40 odd pages, they have found out the missing proof. Now you have 5 books in Springer. The 6th one is also must be ready now. With that, all the problems that Ramanujan solved in a small notebook is done, which probably has produced about 20 PhD theses there. University of Chicago, not our any university here. Okay. So this is it. And what's interesting is he was so original and native thinker. When he was sick and lying at home in his home or in his guest house, his mentor Hardy goes to visit him. He goes and says the British, of course, everybody knows the British weather, murky, wet, cloudy, dry, very, very depressing. Not only that, he said with all that bad weather, he came to see him, and not only the weather was bad, even the taxi he came by had a very bad number called 1729, CE 172. He told this to Ramanujan. Ramanujan just took 1 minute time and told Hardy, 1729 is not a bad number. It is one of the world's most interesting number, because it is the first number which can be expressed as sum of cubes in 2 different ways. In about 2 minutes time, Ramanujan had created a new topic called taxi number. This was taxi number 2, which he discovered there. Taxi number 3 was done later. 4, 5 and all has been done using computers. So this is how he was thinking, because he was trained like this. He was not trained in a formal school through the Western system. Okay. That's why he keeps attributing all his success to the visions he gets from the Namakkal temple. Okay. And after he went back, few days later, Hardy gave a statement, said, if I rank mathematicians all over the world, out of 100 marks, he gets 25, his colleague Littlewood gets 30, the world's greatest 20th century mathematician Hilbert gets 80. He says Ramanujan gets 100 out of 100. Nobody else can come near him. That's really what original IKS could do in this. Okay. The 4th amazing idea we had was about surgery. See, this is a document of 3000 years old. This is done in 800 BC, where these are the sketches from the book. These are all the type of instruments, iron, copper, silver instruments used to do surgery. And some of these instruments actually look like modern surgical tools. This is written in Varanasi, the famous book Sushruta Samhita. It's a treatise on surgery. And these are surgical tools from 800 BC. We were so advanced. I'll come to this again little later. Because of this. See how plastic surgery went from Bombay to England between the year 1792 and 1794. And there is also a Mysore connection. This was published in Gentleman's Magazine in London. This shows a local laborer. So, in the Second Mysore War, the British officers, why India, British, even the every kingdom, whenever they fight a war, all the people who are in the war front are not soldiers. There are large number of laborers to bring water, take the injured out, bring fresh horses, supply ammunition, food, everything. So if you have 1,000 soldiers, you will have approximately about 200 laborers along with them. The rule those days was you will not kill the laborer intentionally. Unintentionally, they may die, but both sides would not kill the laborer. They would only kill the soldiers. So here is one laborer from the Bombay province who was caught by the Mysore kingdom. And those days, prisoners would only be soldiers and officers. They would be put in the dungeon. But what about the laborers? Laborers are localites. This fellow is somewhere from Ratnagiri or Belgaum side who was assisting the British army. What they would do to laborers is either they will cut the ear, cut the nose, or cut the tongue and send them, knowing that everybody can identify him as a traitor. So this man's nose was removed and sent. He went back. And after a year, the treaty was held and all the British officers and soldiers were sent back. So the British officer who went back identified this fellow and told him, I know your nose was not there. How come your nose has come back? You see here, picture of the nose and all that. He told this is common practice in India. There are Vaidyas who can restore damaged pieces. So that is how an idea of plastic surgery was first communicated from India. Now today plastic surgery is far more. This is how it is. Plastic surgery is more advanced than regular or routine surgery today. And plastic surgery, in fact, very similar was done. Even though we have idea that penicillin was done by Alexander Fleming formally, we know very well that in Egyptian kingdom, whenever there was a wound, they would wrap the wound with stale bread. Now, stale bread starts developing fungus or molds, as they call. Please remember, penicillin is one such thing. So they would wrap the injured pieces with stale bread, wrap it, and after some weeks they would remove it and it would be healed because stale bread would invite fungus and mold, and one of the molds is actually penicillin, okay, antibiotic kind of thing. So this is how they were doing. They didn't have a formula and a process, but intuitively the knowledge they had, okay. This is really what we need to understand, okay. Even more interesting is metallurgy. You have heard of story of sword of Tipu Sultan. That sword was made in Damascus, but Damascus did not have iron technology. All this iron technology, iron like this wrought iron and cast iron would go from India. There they would heat it and beat it to sword, knives, daggers and all that. Hello? Yeah, can you call me after 5 o'clock? So this is an iron pillar in Delhi from Chandragupta time, which has not rusted. There's also Ashoka pillar, which was actually done in 300 BC in Ambala, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq shifted it to Delhi. Both have not rusted in 2000 years. So all this was being sent to Syria, where in Damascus was like modern America, where they make weapons for all the people to fight each other and make money. Damascus was like that. So they had this process of beating the iron to whatever, fine swords, daggers, and other things. Okay. But the technology was from here. The other thing is, we were producing books when people in the whole world were not even able to read. One of the oldest book on political economy, and it was written by an author who was a practitioner himself, not like our textbooks, which are all copied. It is the first book of management and statecraft, written by the foremost of practitioners. It is valued on global levels. Please remember, it is prescribed in Harvard University, but not in India. Very unfortunate. That's Macaulay problems. This is the book, Kautilya's Arthashastra. For those of you who want to read, it's under Penguin Classics now in English. But again, an interesting Mysore connection. The final copy of this was found in 1905 in Mysore Library, Oriental, very close to my house. Okay. So every 200 years, they would rewrite the manuscript because manuscript would be lost due to dust, fungus, moisture, letters would get erased, all that. So every 100, 200 years, a new copy of that would be made. And so this is about the 8th copy. So every 200 years they would make, and it was found accidentally in Mysore Oriental Research Library. And then it was translated to many languages, including English. Okay. This is in 283, between 370, it is approximately about 300 BC. This book was written. Even more interesting, one of the oldest book of grammar, approximately about 300 BC, done so well 2,500 years back that it cannot be improved. It is a complete grammar of all languages. It is critical in developing BNF. For those of you who are in computer science, you will know BNF as Backus-Naur form, which is the foundation for all context-free programming languages in the world. Nothing better in any intellectual work in history of time so far. Be very clear. I'm making a very, very strong statement, and I can justify it also. This is it. This is the Panini's Ashtyaadi, and it is the greatest linguist of antiquity because it's the following. See, before Panini did this, perfect grammar in any language, called it, American linguist Bloomfield called it the greatest monument of human intelligence. And currently, Noam Chomsky, who heads that, had a even better thing to say. He told it to my friend. I can share that later. But what this is interesting. This work is 100 times better than E equal to MC squared, which is Einstein's result. Great result, E equal to MC squared. But nothing compared to this 2,500 years back, because till Panini did this grammar, it's a grammar for all languages in the world. People did not know how to read correctly, how to write correctly. If it was wrong, they did not know where it is wrong, why it is wrong, and how to correct, which means the whole world was not reading, writing, and speaking correctly till Panini did his grammar. Which is better? That is better, or making an atom bomb is better? See how they have twisted it. 99% in the world don't even know Panini. They must say, yes, E equal to MC squared is great. But this is 100 times greater than this because it's more utility, more fundamental, and more human, right? This is exactly what IKS is all about. We have all good things through a human angle. Because you don't project it through a human angle, destruction takes over. Destruction is very powerful. People are afraid of destruction. So that starts getting more valued. In fact, one of my friends who went to work with Chomsky told him, why are you coming and wasting your time in MIT now with us? Because we have not done 10% of what Panini did 3,000 years back. Don't waste your time here. You are from India, go back there and do better. That's exactly what he told. Okay. Even more interesting, something independent of even the knowledge system. It is even independent of reading, writing skills. Large majority of people don't need to read and write, or not reading and writing. Those days, illiteracy was very high, but common sense was there. Don't equate literacy with common sense. Today, the people with least common sense are bureaucrats and vice chancellors. Okay. It's universal good. One of the most important to human life everywhere, all over the world. You see, this is what is. IKS, looking at the goodness of all, not just my own knowledge system. It is a preventive medicine. It has significant therapeutic value. Only a fool will not value this. The only person in the world who says this is not useful is a fool, confirmed fool, because it is the greatest good done to human well-being from any knowledge system. It is well-being at zero cost. No need to spend money on that. It has no side effects. It has no non-institutional dogma. You don't have to be associated with any knowledge system or culture. It is now the best brand of IKS the world over. Everybody in the world equates IKS, even though there are many other things about IKS. They think IKS means this. Which is this? Yoga. So done by, predominantly organized by Patanjali in 200 BC. 8 arms of yoga, mostly dominated by asana and pranayama, which is what is. There are other things. Okay. And what is more interesting, even here there is an interesting Mysore connection. This is 200 BC, 2400 years back. You see here, this is the man who made Hatha Yoga, what you now see today with Baba Ramdev and all that, very popular. This is again from Mysore. This man, Krishnamacharya, died when he was 101 years. He is actually the father of modern yoga, particularly Hatha Yoga. That is because when he was a small boy, about 20, 21 years, he accompanied Maharaja of Mysore on a pilgrimage to Kailas Manasarovar. When they went there, today you take Chinese permission and go, 99% of the people who go do the outer parikrama and come. They are about 15, 20 kilometers away from Mount Kailas. That's the closest they go. But there are some people who do inner parikrama. They go very close, almost a kilometer away from Mount Kailas. But those days, even now today, there are people living at the foot of Mount Kailas who are Tibetan monks. There are caves there. Those days in 1920s, there are no visa, passport, nothing. You could walk across. So these people went with Maharaja. When they went, they met the Tibetan monks. The Tibetan monks told something very interesting. They told, you have been under Islamic rule for 1,000 years, under British rule for 300 years. In this 1,300 years, lot of your culture, good things have been suppressed and destroyed, particularly yoga, Hatha Yoga and asanas. We learned it from the Buddhist monks in 6th century, and it has remained with us because we didn't come under their influence. They said, we owe a gratitude to you. Can you please take all this knowledge back to India and popularize it? So Krishnamacharya stayed back. Maharaja had to come back to India, Mysore, to rule. Krishnamacharya stayed with the Tibetan monks for about 2.5 years in those caves and learned all the things which Patanjali had done and had disappeared from Indian public. He collected all of them, practiced it, came back to Mysore, started the first yoga school, and his first disciple was B.K.S. Iyengar, who popularized Hatha Yoga all over the world. Of course, B.K.S. Iyengar shifted to Pune, but that's it. And his second student was Patabi Joyce. The third student was a lady from Mexico who went and popularized Hatha Yoga in Central and South America. And today, all these people have used this back. Baba Ramdev, Jaggi Vasdev, Sri, everybody is talking this. This was done little over 100 years back in Mysore. This is a man responsible for this. Not many know. Okay. We also had world-class university education system. Of course, today's education system is very bad. We have today the world's worst universities. Okay. See, Oxford was 13th century, Harvard was 17th. Banaras Hindu University was started in almost 100 years back. But you see here, when the men of Alexander the Great came to Taxila in India in the 4th century BC, they found a university the like of which had not been seen in Greece, a university which taught the 3 Vedas and the 18th accomplishments and was still existing when Chinese pilgrim Fa Hian went there in 400 AD. For about 800 years, it was the unchallenged supreme university in the world. Later, of course, other universities emerged. I'll come to that. See here. So many universities. Ratnagiri, Vikramshila, Jagdale, Somapuri, Odantapuri, Pushpagiri, Nalanda, Taxashila, Vallabh University, Bikrampur, and there were many smaller universities. For example, Kanchipuram in south. All this was destroyed by the Arabic invaders. All this was destroyed by them. India was the only country to have university education in ancient time. The reason why they were all shattered by invaders. So I showed this map earlier, how prosperous and how interactive people were. People from Italy, Greece, North Africa, everybody would come do trading for over 2000 years. So you had frequently people coming like this, somebody from North Africa. You see, what is interesting with North Africa is, if you want to go to Italy on land route, you have to go like this, go all the way, cross the Alps and come. Otherwise, you can do one thing interesting. You can either take a long sea route or even more safe, travel by land up to what is today Carthage, which I mentioned. Take a small boat and cross across. This is how Arab traders traded in Morocco with southern Italy, which is Pisa, Milan, not Rome, Pisa, Milan. And one of the travelers there who came to India is Ibn Battuta. He was in Muhammad bin Tughlaq's court for about 2 years. He traveled all over India. He came to Bangalore twice, went to Calicut, went to Sri Lanka, went to Burma, went to Indonesia, went to China and came back, including far better traveler than Marco Polo. But what I am saying is the link between North Africa and Italy. That link is this. See, Fibonacci. His Leonardo of Pisa is his actually name, but he was called Fibonacci because he was the son of Bonacci, who was the trader, his father. Born in Italy and ended in Italy, he spent his younger years in North Africa with his father, who was trading with Arabs. There he learned Hindu numerals, converted what we now know as decimal system, translated it into Latin from Arabic, presented it to Pope. Pope took 3 years' time, discussed and made a rule that all Italian traders should use decimal system or the Hindu numerals for trading. That is how. And Isaac Newton gives lot of credit to Fibonacci. And what is more interesting, you see the Madhava of Kerala. This is Leibniz, this is Newton. Madhava of Kerala started working mathematics between year 1380 to 1420. Newton is 1642. All this work all the way to 1550 to 1621 was what is today known as Kerala School of Mathematics. Particularly this Neelkanta Somyaji, where his work was picked up through the Jesuit priests who were already active in Kerala coast, went to Europe. Newton got the idea of, or Taylor first got the idea of convergence series. He called it Taylor series. Then idea of limits came. Newton used all this. He didn't give credit, of course. Today there is a BBC documentary on this. 2-part BBC documentary showing how the work of Kerala School of Mathematics eventually led to calculus. One amazing thing people don't know. Suppose you know things well, how to take advantage of this? The person who actually took excellent advantage is Korean. He created Amul in the following manner. He had seen local Gujarati women doing milk business daily, fairly efficient. We also have from Mohenjo-daro and Harappa excavations, large conical clay tubes with perforation and a suspension to hang it from the roof or wall. That clay pots with perforation is what was used to convert milk to cheese, paneer. So he saw a local IKS knowledge on milk and milk product technology. He called all of them, organized them, made a cooperative, and he called it Amul. What he did is interesting. He didn't disturb the local knowledge. He provided 20% extra Western knowledge of enhancing the quality, increasing the shelf life, diversifying the product range, professionalizing the process. That's all he did. So, one of the amazing things we have learned is you should not have WKS and try to put IKS on top. Learn IKS well and see which part of IKS needs WKS intervention. This is what Korean did. And today, Amul is the world's #1 food brand. It has little over 60,000 native population as members of the cooperative who are given dividend. And more interesting, today's revenue of Amul is touching about $4 billion. He knew WKS, he also knew IKS well. And he found out the correct mix. That's why you just can't do IKS. You just can't say, I'll do IKS and make a mobile phone tomorrow. Impossible. You must know both and you must know how to synthesize correctly. That very few people in the world, in India are capable of that. And don't neglect indigenous knowledge, particularly Ayurvedic knowledge, all that. You see, for jaundice, the only cure is in Ayurveda. Allopathy doesn't have cure for jaundice. And you see here, there's a very interesting 4th century BC, 2,600 years back, Greek vase, which has this. There is this person resting on the arm and shooting arrow with legs. This cannot be imagination because those days imagination was not like this, not like our AI, machine learning, ChatGPT imagination. This, somebody must have seen it to write like this or paint it like this. And today we have a proof, interesting proof. You see here, in 2016, you have World Nomad Games, just like World Olympics. You have World Nomad Games held in Kyrgyzstan. And here is a girl who is shooting. This girl archery can beat Olympic archery hollow. The Olympic archers find it very difficult with sophisticated bow and arrow to shoot correctly. Here is a girl who is shooting with her legs with a crude bow and arrow, traditional Mongolian bow and arrow. So don't have contempt for India. You may not understand. It may look crude. It may look unsophisticated, but it has value. Okay? So has the world truly changed because of so many knowledge systems? What do the poor do? Work and work. What do the rich do? Exploit the poor. What does the soldier do? He has to protect both rich and poor. What does the taxpayer do? He has to pay for the soldier. He gets exploited by the rich and he also has to subsidize the poor. What does the banker do? He robs all these four. What does the lawyer do? He will mislead all the five. What does the doctor do? He will bill all six because all these people fall sick. What does the gundas do? They will scare all these six and make living. What does the politician do? Lives happily on account of all these seven, which is exactly how all our state governments are running today. But what is interesting is when this was told, and even today the situation is like, this was told by a companion of Julius Caesar. Marcus Cicero in 43 BC wrote like this. He said, "What are you talking, Caesar? The Roman Empire is like this. Today's our state government and central government is also like this. Even worse is the American government, because there are no hundreds of gundas. One gunda is there at the top called the president. Right? This is what is happening. So not much has changed in 3,000 years. Attitudes and other things haven't changed. Technology has changed. Gadgets have come. People have started talking a lot, writing a lot, communicating a lot. But their heart and mind is the same what it was 3,000 years back. In fact, much worse perhaps. Okay, we'll look at multilingualism. So multilingualism is basically the ability to speak in or use multiple languages. We call it polyglots. Okay. India has one of the largest population in the world who speak more than one language. We are a nation of polyglots. We also speak a lot. We do two things. We speak a lot, even if it is one language. One of the reasons we learn multiple languages is because we can speak more with more people. Okay. There are many houses with no toilets, but almost all of them are one or two mobiles because talking is priority for Indians. Very good. There's nothing wrong with that. See, motivation for multilingual. Look at one of the highest Gnanapith awards has been given in Kannada, not surprising. But what is interesting is out of these 8 people who have got Gnanapith award, 4 people don't have their mother tongue as Kannada. They are all, so multilingualism is an advantage to express your views better. Even more interesting, look at this man. He is blind. He can speak 22 languages. He's a Sanskrit and Hindi scholar, never uses Braille. He has started his own university, which only gives admission to children with 4 different types of disabilities: hearing, speaking, seeing, mobility. And he's author of 80 books. He's also the Gnanapith Award in 2023. Rambhadracharya in Chitrakoot. Even more interesting. See, all of you know R.K. Narayan. In fact, the interesting part about this is that I met R.K. Narayan when he was living in Mysore almost 3 months a year. Particularly the summer of Chennai would be spent in Mysore. His grandson was my classmate. And his mother tongue is Tamil, but he's a world famous English writer. Equally interesting is M.N. Srinivas, one of the world's best social anthropologists. Mother tongue is both Kannada and Tamil, but very famous for his book called Remembered Village. Even more interesting is the world's greatest statistician, mathematician, C.R. Rao, who died when he was 102 years old. His mother tongue is Telugu. He was born in Karnataka in Ballari. And he has not only become famous in English writing, but in statistics too. Much less said the better about Bhimsen Joshi, whose mother tongue is Kannada and Marathi, and must have sung in 16, 18 different languages. So all of them have different mother tongues. Even more interesting is Geetanjali, which got the Nobel Prize, but Tagore never wrote in English. Yeats translated Bengali Geetanjali to English. That's why it got the Nobel Prize. Tolstoy's work, originally in Russian, only became popular when it was translated to English, influenced all over. And the greatest influence Tolstoy had was on Mahatma Gandhi. That's why Gandhi called his first ashram Tolstoy Farm in South Africa. All of you know Lata Mangeshkar, unchallenged, 40-odd thousand songs in some 20 different languages. And this is also interesting. This man who waited almost 40 years to get Nobel Prize because his work was not translated to English. After it was translated to English, he got the Nobel Prize. And then they changed the rule saying any language Nobel Prize is awarded provided it is good. This is Gabriel Marquez, Spanish writer. So these are all the issues of linguists. So the thing is, it's a critical mechanism to understand, communicate, and transact with others, whether it is culture, sharing of knowledge, or trade. How did Romans trade with Indians? How did Vasco da Gama find his way to reach Calicut? After all, he finally ended up in South Africa. That's why he called it Cape of Good Hope, because there he got hope that he can reach India. Then they told him, you go to Madagascar, where there are frequent Gujarati and Arab traders who can take you to Calicut. Okay. So multilingualism enhances the knowledge system of everyone when interaction, assimilation, and integration happens. For example, you have words like chutney, catamaran, which are words in English dictionary now. Very beautiful words, correctly expressing. You don't have an equivalent in English. You can call it mixture. You can call it puree, something. But chutney is different, right? Similarly, it is not necessary that our own language is the best expression for human thought. For example, a word like prayashchit, you don't have a nice equivalent word in English or other languages. Beautiful word, prayashchit. So it is always good to adapt from other languages so that your expression is more genuine and more correct. Okay. So human thoughts and emotions transcend language barriers and needs to be bridged. That's why multiculturalism through multilingualism is a very essential thing. Look at this. There's a board in 4 languages: English, Cantonese, Tamil, and there is the local Malaysian language. All railway stations have this 3 languages: the local language, the international language, and Devanagari. What about this? Chandragupta married Helena, the Seleucus Nicator's daughter or sister. That is still confusing. Some say daughter, some say sister. What did they speak? What language they spoke? She did not know Pali or Prakrit or even Sanskrit. This fellow knew maybe an early version of Magadhi or maybe Pali or Prakrit. Somehow they would have managed. After all, they were husband and wife. Even more interesting, this Besanagar pillar inscription in Vidisha, dated 2nd century current era, 200 AD. Language Central Western Prakrit with Sanskritized spellings. Brahmi script of Shunga period is used to describe it. It was issued by Heliodorus, who was the Greek ambassador to Bactria, neighboring vassal portion of the Eastern Greek Empire after Seleucus lost to Chandragupta. And this is venerating Vasudeva. He gives a bag of gold and supports, he becomes a Vaishnavite. Okay. So those who go to Vidisha can see this. Okay. So what are the advantages of multilingualism? Ability to understand and interact with others. There are economic benefits. That's why all the traders quickly pick up the local language. Otherwise, they are not able to communicate and improve their economic and trade. Enhances some expression in our own language. Health also improves. I'll come to that. And also, sometimes truth can be better discerned in the original language. That is why many people read original journal articles of Gauss and others in either German, or they may take Laplace's original work in French and read what he was writing rather than the English translation. Okay. The disadvantage is effort spent on multiple languages may not yield benefit. Should you be a jack of 10 languages or a master of one? That depends. more expensive, and at what cost to master one or learn more? And today's online translation makes it not necessary, even though online translations now are very bad. I am telling you, in future also it will be quite bad. There is proven medical advantage. Okay, one of the reasons India has low percentage of dementia is because people speak multiple languages. Whereas America has lot of dementia cases because they speak only one language, which means only few set of muscles are used throughout the life. Whereas when you speak different languages, different muscles are used. They all conclude bilingualism in speech allows for better cognition and lower incidence and degree of dementia. It is indeed a serious problem as USA and to a lesser extent, Europe is monolingual. I wish people in Tamil Nadu become sensible. They are fighting stupidly on language issue. More the better. Even worse is something about North India. I will tell that later. So how languages have evolved, all that we will see. This is how. Languages evolved as humans migrated. Over the last 2.5 million years, waves of people have moved out and occupied the rest of the world. For example, the last wave of people out of Africa moved out 70,000 years back to Indian subcontinent, whereas America is all 10, 12,000 years back. New Zealand is only 1,500 years back. And as a progress of human migration, over the last 6 million years, one of the reasons we have more languages and better communication now is because our brain has developed disproportionately to our torso. Our hands and legs have not evolved so much, but brain capacity termed through volume, you can see here in 6 million years, our brain has moved from 350 cubic centimeters to approximately 1,500 cubic centimeters. And this is the language diversity. You see, how many languages in Africa? How many languages in Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia? Very little in South America, little more in Central America, very less in America and Europe, very less. They are not a evolved society. Evolved societies are here and here. And one of the reasons for this thing is plenty of things. For example, you see here, lot of things have happened. Change in brain structure. Okay. Lot of grammar structures, etc., has come. This is the correct thing. Earlier, the brain structure was simple, so you could only do less complex languages. Today, changes in brain and cognition, more in increased social complexity. You need to talk to many others. Increased juvenile period. You see here, we keep children at home for 3 to 5 years, send them to kindergarten to talk to others, all that. That was, animals don't do that. Animals will keep their baby for 2 to 3 weeks, and after that, the animal is on its own. So, a lot of physiological and behavior changes has resulted in this, including, you see how much English has changed. English in 200 BCE, then the Middle English, which had Shakespeare, today the modern English. The modern English includes words from Hindi, Persian, Arabic, Turkish, Malay, American, everything, because they colonized, they imported. Then the Renaissance time, English had a mixture of French, Latin, all that. This is the, all languages have evolved like this. Okay. So can we map some of this issue? For example, the court language was Persian for 700 years in India, even though less than 1% knew Persian. Even worse was in 1785 when suddenly Tipu Sultan changed the court language from Kannada to Persian, and there were only 2 people in whole of Mysore kingdom who knew Persian, which means every court case had to be decided through 2 people. You see how how terrible it is. Same was English. Today, only recently they have changed that non-English is also allowed in court. Otherwise, during British rule and up to recent, maybe 20, 30 years back, so many advocates have cheated their clients who did not know English. Today, Pondicherry and Goa still continue having French and Goa as one of the official languages. China is facing a more serious problem because they have no English base trying to deal with technology. So this is really what it is. About 4,500 BC, that is approximately 6,500 years back, you had one early Proto-Indo-European language which branched off to all European languages and Asian languages. And you can see here, it was Indo-Iranian. From there, Iranian went, finally ended up in Pashto. Here, Indo-Aryan, then it became Vedic Sanskrit, which was oral. Classical Sanskrit later became written. Prakrit, from there, Maratha, Sinhali, Bengali, all that. Finally, Hindustani, and very late, Hindi is a very recent language. One of the most recent languages is Hindi. So all the languages are in some sense linked, and the proof of this is the word tu, do. And all the various languages have very similar sounding words, clearly telling that Indo-European languages are linked, particularly Indo languages with North European, Scandinavian countries very close. So is with Russian. Okay. So the first evidence of bilingual writing with the same script you find in Sumerian kingdom. This is even more interesting. Done approximately 3,000 years back. It is written in Old Persian, Elamite and Akkadian script. Language, but using the same cuneiform. So the same message written in 3 different languages using the same script, because script diversity had not happened. You will see this famous Rosetta Stone, which is kept in British Museum now, having the same message in 3 languages: Egyptian hieroglyphics, ancient Egyptian Demotic script, which is the script of language which Jesus Christ was using, and ancient Greek. In fact, knowing these two, this Jean Francis deciphered hieroglyphics. Okay. And how language spread is trade. Trade brought all kinds of languages in, like why the English has gone up because of internet. And very interesting script done in Afghanistan, just on the other side of Kushan, which is Rabatak inscription. What is interesting with this script is this is a Roman script, Greek script, and this inscription was actually used in the Babri Masjid demolition court case, where they have clearly mentioned in the script the word Saketa, which is the old word for Ayodhya. They have mentioned Patliputra, Sri Kampa, Kausam, everything is mentioned in this script. This is one of the evidences used for Babri Masjid case. And one of the sources for Sanskrit appears to be this kingdom called Mitanni, which is about 4,000 BC, around that time. Because from there you find relations to the Persian Empire, which is Zoroastrian, what is Parsis today, who are also fire worshippers. Agni, Varuna, all these were named. There was no Shiva, Parvati, Vishnu till then. So all these things are in some sense linked. You had a Vedic Sanskrit which was oral. Then the written Sanskrit came. From oral Sanskrit, a written form of Prakrit, from which all the modern North Indian languages have emerged. And many other things. And what is interesting is somebody who's a renowned Indologist from Harvard, he says, oral tradition is superior to written tradition, because oral tradition is like a tape recording. You see, this is Ashoka's inscription in a place called Maski near Raichur in Karnataka, where some of the earliest writing you see in South India. This is in Maski, this is in Brahmagiri. And you will see a lot of similarities between the Phoenician script and the Brahmi script. Okay. Modern English is A. The Phoenician A looks like this. The Brahmi A looks like this. And today's Hindi looks like this. So Brahmi script, all languages were done in Brahmi. Okay. And Devanagari is very recent. These are the various languages, 22 languages, recognized languages in India. And the current Dravidian languages, Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, and Malayalam, which also have script, are here. But there are also other languages, Tulu, Kodava, Sanketi, all that, which don't have script. Even these don't have script. Very strange reason or worth investigating. There is a small district on the border of Iran and not Iran, in Afghanistan and Pakistan, nearly in Balochistan. This district speaks a language called Brahui, which is a Dravidian language. So one of the theory is that pre-Indus civilization must have been Dravidian, and they must have moved to Indus Valley civilization and reached South India about 4000 BC. Okay. And of course, we have about 220 to 230 million Dravidians, people speaking Dravidian language. So you had a Proto-Dravidian which split to all, created Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada. And this is the Panini's entire grammar composition. Today you have deterministic context-free languages, which are the computer programs. Okay. And today you have ChatGPT, which does large language model translation from one to another, which is why languages are so important. And three language formula is important. You must have first language, mother tongue. It could be either Dravidian or Devanagari. Second language can be English, which is an economic language. The third language must be reverse of the mother tongue, meaning if the mother tongue is Dravidian, they must have a Devanagari as third language. And if the mother tongue is Devanagari, they must have Dravidian as third language. This is where the problem with North Indians are. 90% of the language problem in India is created by North Indians who don't want to learn Dravidian language, but expect us to learn Hindi, which is the most recent language, just 1000 years back. Okay. If you still want to learn a fourth language, you can learn Spanish, which is expanding a lot, South America and other places. You can learn Russian, which has a large resource, large land area with small population. You can learn Japanese, where all the old people are dying, no new youngsters are being born. Or you can learn a North European Slavic language, which has a lot of similarities. You also get a good life. Only thing, you have to live without sun for about 4 months in a year. So having said all this, there's some interesting things I want to show. Multilingualism actually gives you better cognition when you are young, better earning, employability, and college success when you are adult, better health when you are mature. So don't neglect multiple languages. And I'll tell you some uncomfortable truth that is not generally known. You see here, when Macaulay was busy preaching new education policy in India, England did not have a divorce rule. Wives were sold as recent as 1844. This is the culture of people who are trying to tell us what to do. You will see here graves of Catholic wife and Protestant husband who are not allowed to be buried together. They lived together. After they died, both their communities made sure they were buried separately. And you can see here what WKS does. Western knowledge system and Arabic knowledge system focus on good institutions but a weak family. Indian knowledge system focuses on good family, therefore we have very weak institutions. And you can see here the most Christian countries in the world, Portugal and Spain, have an average of 90% divorce, whereas India's divorce rate is 1%. But most of the Eastern Europe, Eastern Asian nations have low percentage. You have many references. Don't miss this. This is one of the best book about humanity written. And what is interesting about this book is 70 million copies sold in 65 languages in 10 years. There is one copy of this in Tamil also. And this is an amazing book. Half the 25% of the images I have taken for my presentation is from this book, very recent, released only last year.